Aunty Thelma Chilly, Wiradjuri, Muddy Muddy, Waddy Waddy, Wamba Wamba, Brappa Brappa, Yorta Yorta, General Member for the North West Region.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the land of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung and the Bunurong Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nations. I acknowledge that we stand here on this land, right here at Parliament House, which had great significance as a cultural and ceremonial ground for the Eastern Kulin Nation people. This place has been a site for law and law, making for millennia. I pay my deepest respects to your elders and for the battles they fought to preserve this great land here at Naarm, to ensure its people inserted their rights to safeguard this place for generations to come. I pay my respects to all of our elders present here today and to all of you. My name is Thelma Chilly. I'm a Wiradjuri, Muddy Muddy, Waddy Waddy, Wamba Wamba, Barappa Barappa and Yorta Yorta woman. I was born in Robinvale. Before then, our people were fleeing the assimilation policies and fleeing places where police were taking children. Many of the people that settled in Robinvale came from all over the place. My family fled from New South Wales, from Narrandera, all along the way. When my grandmother came, Christina Morgan, when she came to Robinvale on that journey on a horse and cart, she was pregnant. She actually came along the way and then went into labour. She went into the hospital. Of course, she couldn't go in. She had to stay on the porch where she birthed her baby, who they told her she would never live. They put the baby in a shoebox. That's how small she was. The little baby went on that journey all the way from Narrandera, all the way to Robinvale on a horse and cart. They arrived in Robinvale on the riverbank, where we now have what we call the Easter Camp in Punt Pen in Robinvale. All of the families living there together. That little girl in the shoebox turned 71 in December. Still here, still strong, surviving. Kind of tells the story of our people. In the 56 flood, all of the people that lived along the riverbank had to move to higher ground. They came up to the back of Robinvale, which is an industrial area, in Moore Street, and there was a big black water tank there, and our people camped around about that place. They had to. Everything else was underwater. But very, very quickly, the white people in town perceived that as a black problem. They started talking about, what are we going to do about this black problem? And there was a man there that was the welfare officer, formed a local welfare board after travelling to Melbourne and meeting with the welfare board here. And they actually said you know what, we're going to build a mission. And Munatunga Mission was born. And that's where I lived as a child, a product of assimilation policies. That's where our people were. I only just learned recently those dwellings only had a front door. They never had a back door. I never knew why. And I've only just learnt the reason why they only had a front door is when the police came and the welfare officer, you couldn't run out the back door. My father worked hard along with all of the other men there on a sawmill that was across the road. I have memories as a child going over there, rolling down the sawdust mountains, walking near giant saws that were so dangerous, but as a child not knowing. You had to be and act white. The best of you, when they started moving people into the township of Robinvale, was if you ran your house deadly, if you dressed white, if you were polite, if you looked after your kids, you went to church on Sunday, you were chosen to then move into township of Robinvale. I've read articles in The Australian where it said, the war in Robinvale, and my grandmother on the front page. The racism was horrible. People perceived it as the worst thing possible for black people to come into town and live with them. Of course, my grandmother, Jean Sampson, she was the best of them. Down in that bush, she had her tree, and under her tree, she had her camp. And in that camp, she had a little fence around it. She even had a clothesline at the back. And kids couldn't run through that yard and jump her fence because she'd chase them with a stick. But she was perceived as being the best. So she was the first to go into the township. And she lived there all her life until her death. We moved up, eventually, on the outskirts of town. And it was different. There were 3 bedrooms, there was a fireplace, there was a stove, and we were happy. But the racism was still there. At school, when you walked into a post office, I remember standing there to post a letter for my father and mother and being abused by white women standing behind me, saying that I stunk. I didn't. But they perceived that I did because I'm black. I only just learnt this past Easter camp when we had our elders come by and tell the stories on the riverbank that Uncle Stewie Clayton and Aunty Myrtle were the first ones that came there. They came there too in a cart, a horse and cart. The funny thing about that is that same horse and cart was my Uncle Joe. My Uncle Joe's Pierce. It was his cart on the mission. And he never wanted to camp in those houses. He stayed in that cart at the back of the mission. And I have so many childhood memories of going there and climbing up into his wagon and sitting there. Sometimes he let me climb in the back and he had some lollies for me. Not far from there was a place that was a tree. That was, leaves covered the ground, but it was hollow on the inside. That was my cubby hole. I often drive past the mission and look that way. I'm so happy to be here. I'm thankful for the people that have elected me, that have put me here to be their voice. I will try my hardest to do that. I'll do it with all my heart. I've spent the entirety of my life helping my community, and I'll continue to do that as long as I live. I don't know how long that's going to be. I'm 61 now. I might not see the end of my term, but know that while I'm here, I'll do everything I can for my people. Thank you.